Brandon, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a businessman. I don't know exactly what goes into all of these negotiations. I have my thoughts on the charter system as a fan with that limited knowledge. But what was your reaction to the news this weekend that 2311 co-owned as well, not just with Denny Hamlin, but one of the most famous, not just sports people, but human beings, period, on the planet, and Michael Jordan. I mean, this is a massive development for a team that certainly has a lot of fans and a lot of following here, as well as Front Row Motorsports, not to discredit them. What's your reaction to the news that they haven't signed the agreement yet?
My initial reaction was something similar to what Michael Scott said to Oscar Martinez. Can you explain that to me like a 4-year-old would understand it? That's too much for me. Again, yeah, like you, Ben, I'm not a businessman at all, and math was my worst. So there you go. But enough to know that 2311 and Front Row see something they don't like, and also according to Matt Weaver's report with Sportsnaut, it was something where it was given to them very late in the evening, and you have till midnight to sign it. And there was a wide range of responses from teams. Some saying some going so far as to say this is like a communist regime, and then you've got folks like Brad Keselowski thinking it's not that bad. Come on, guys. We didn't find much problem with it. And then you've got the 2311 in Front Row where it's like, we can't sign this. We want to make money, you know. And so I did have a quote here from Weaver's article, if you don't mind, just
Sure.
a bit here. Polk from 2311 has been adamant all along that teams with a stronger financial grounding will be able to invest more heavily into marketing and activating the sport. But that right now, they're all focused on merely surviving. Of the 19 teams that signed the inaugural charter deal in 2017, only seven of them are left. 2017 doesn't feel like that long ago to you and me, but we definitely can think about some of those teams that are a part of that departure in just that time that we've had the charter system. And yeah, that does not look good.
Yeah, I don't know. And I guess this is where I struggle with the charter system, because I feel like a broken record. I feel like I say it on one of our programs every week, but I see both sides here. I understand the team owners want something tangible, something of value that they can. I mean, you saw it with Chip Ganassi, I think, when he sold to Justin Marks and Trackhouse, and how much value did those charters alone provide the Ganassi team, and how much leverage did that give him? Him being Chip there with a guy like Justin Marks, who I believe Trackhouse had to lease a charter their first year when they were a single car program with Daniel Suarez, and then they come in and they're looking at the charter market, not sure what they're going to do, and then they offer to just buy the entire team, and that's their solution, and they've clearly made it work for them. I mean, I get it, but the current state of the charter system means that Chip Ganassi had to exit the sport because of that. And to your point, Brandon, I guess that was a deal that Chip was willing to go through with, but they're like, I think of like the Starcom Racings of the world, and shameless plug, my editor-in-chief Brock Beard wrote the biography for Derek Cope, and that project kept getting pushed back because of what was going on with Starcom Racing in those final months of 2021, and Derek being told, look, in no uncertain terms, we're going to revoke your charter. If you guys don't finish outside the bottom three in the standings this year, and a limited budget team with limited resources, they were out there doing the best that they could, but the risk was too great for them, and they ultimately had to sell before they lost that value entirely. And I miss the days. The first season I followed the sport full time was 2007, and I miss the days when Michael Waltrip could start a 3-car team basically out of thin air. I know he was doing some Busch Series stuff and part-time Cup stuff at the time, but 3 full-time Cup Series teams, brand new, coming down to the Daytona 500 to try to be 43 of 61.
With the brand new with the brand new manufacturer, by the way.
Yeah.
Introducing Toyota.
Brand new manufacturer as well. And listen, I understand that there are many reasons. There are many reasons why we don't have 61 cars showing up to Daytona anymore. It's not just the charter system to blame for that. But the charter system has made it to the point where that's really the only race all season where we get DNQs, where we have more than 4 open teams showing up, because I mean, you're running in the red just showing up as an open team, period. I mean, you can go out. I mean, I don't know how much Colleague Racing banked for winning that Indianapolis road course race with AJ Allmendinger. I don't know how much Trackhouse made off the Project 91 deal with Shane Van Gisbergen. I know they had sponsors and partners that helped them make those races possible, and they went out and won those races to their credit, but they're not, those cars aren't part of the charter deal. They're not, I mean, again, we don't know how much money, teams are making from race purses nowadays either. But I don't know. I'd have to think, even with winning the race, you're probably not turning a profit on running that race as an open car. So what's the point of even showing up if you know it's going to be a losing effort? And then on top of that, imagine if enough cars show up that you might not qualify for the race. That's really why the only race we see that is the Daytona 500, which awards the most prize money, I suppose. And again, I don't know exactly how that breaks down with the charter teams and the open teams, but it's just a frustrating deal to me that, to your point, Brandon, how of those 19 minus 7 is what, 12 teams? I guess 12 teams that signed that initial agreement that are no longer in the sport. How many of those were by choice? How many of those were team owners that were like, we had a good run, but I just want to ride off into the sunset and retire here? I think a lot of those, I think of the Furniture Row racings and the Levine family racings and Germain racings. They were part of deals or part of alliances that, simply were going to become unmanageable and unaffordable.
Formed in the old system
and not go out while you were on top. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were formed in the old system and not built to sustainably survive in the new system, I would say.
Yeah.
Those family racing type of deals. And I keep thinking back to Jeff Gordon earlier this year saying that Hendrick Motorsports hasn't made a profit in 10 years. That's your New York. That's your New England Patriots right there of the sport.
Your New York Yankees of the sport. New
York. Your Yankees of the sport, and they haven't turned a profit in 10 years. What is that like? That needs to be said a little louder.
Yeah, I mean, and that's all. But that's always been the case, though. We've always known that, if anybody's turning a profit, it's the Rick Ware Racings and Premium Motorsports of the world. And I'm sure, with how Rick Ware's running this year, I love that they've advanced their program as far as they have, to the point where you see Justin Haley have a solid run every now and again. Even Cody Ware got a top 5 just a couple weeks ago at Daytona. We didn't see that as recently as 5 years ago with where that team was at. But I have to imagine that, what's the cost of pouring enough into your program to the point where those runs are possible now? You're probably, anything that you were making, collecting that. I mean, what you saw with Spire Motorsports, who went out and bought the Furniture Row charter and were absolutely terrible. I mean, aside from stealing a win with Justin Haley at the Summer Daytona race, were absolutely terrible for a couple of years. But, we're able to slowly build that program up and now have a multi-car team that, is capable of, certainly capable of finishing in the top 10 on their best day, maybe even going out and winning a race. We saw Zane Smith come very close to that. We've seen Carson Hocevar put in some very good runs. Even Corey LaJoie's finished in the top 15 on back-to-back weekends now. So that team's miles ahead of where they were. But what's the cost of that? I mean, and I understand that this is a very expensive sport and very, very, very much unlike, another reason why I don't like the stick and ball sport comparisons here.
Not like anything else. You're exactly right.
It takes a lot of money to be successful in this sport here. But when you have your top teams not turning a profit, and somebody like Jeff Gordon is out there on the record saying it publicly, I can understand where you come to the negotiating table here if you're both NASCAR and the teams and say, we have to do what we can to maybe reel it back in a little bit. But again, clearly 2311 and Front Row saw something that they didn't like. And there's also a quote, I think we have the same article pulled up here, Brandon, and I just exited out of it here, so I'm not going to be able to read it verbatim. But there's a quote later on from Bob Jenkins basically saying, I don't know how you can expect teams to be given a 105-page agreement with 6 hours notice and say, okay, sign this by midnight and be fully confident. It's like a 6,000-page bill that comes across your desk in Congress and they have a matter of hours to vote on it. And do you really think anybody in this room has read every single word of this massive document that they've been.
It's
I don't
it's
know. Just
almost
the
it's
optics of
almost
that are not
strategic.
great.
Yeah, it's almost strategic sounding to give it that late because they don't want you to read all of it, and
Yeah.
more of a coercion tactic to get you to just go ahead and sign it and get it back to our hands.
Yeah, and again, we heard that exact word. I think in an anonymous team owner coming out and saying that we were kind of coerced into this, or we may be liable to revoke your charter. I don't know. I mean, clearly that's a risk that 2311 in front row we're willing to take here, but I don't know. I mean, I think that Jordan Bianchi said this on he and Jeff Gluck's podcast as well. I don't know that either of these teams have very much leverage if they're the only two holdouts. Everybody else has signed this. Everybody else came to terms with the agreement here and came to the terms of a deal. I can't imagine that there's very much leverage, even though it's Denny Hamlin, who's one of the more successful drivers of the last couple of decades in the Cup Series level, even if it's somebody like Michael Jordan as a business partner. And if you think of how many eyeballs his name brings to the sport potentially for, how many new fans have gotten into the sport because they followed his life and his career and his business interests. And he's coming to show NASCAR some love by buying into a Cup Series program and how great that is for the sport. I don't know that that great story alone is enough leverage for 2311 to be able to get away with being a holdout here. So I hope the best for each of these teams, and I can respect them wanting to stand their ground. But I think it's just going to be very interesting how this whole thing plays out here. And again, we should make very clear we're not privy to any of the negotiations or behind the scenes information
Very
of
much in
what's
the
going
dark.
on or what could happen here. But at the same time, I don't think we can just sit back and ignore it, because these are two teams here that not only run two cars and even sometimes a third part-time car at the Cup Series level. There have been open talks about them being in the market to buy another charter and expand to a 3-car operation for both 2311 and front row. And you think of the massive steps forward again. I remember when Kevin LePage was driving the front row car. I mean, you thought AJ Allmendinger struggled to qualify in 2007. I mean, Kevin LePage, just like almost every week, he was failing to qualify, not being fast enough in that front row car, and yet they persevered. They built their program up, and now, like I just said, what is McDowell up to 5 poles now this year? I think I know 4 of them are on drafting tracks. Yeah, but who would have thought that even as recently, I think, as 5 or 6 years ago for front row motorsports? And it's a testament to what they built over there.
Technical alliances have helped a ton too with Ford.
Yeah, their alliances. I don't know that. I mean, again, with all due respect to Bob Jenkins, I don't know that being a restaurant entrepreneur here, it puts you on the same level as somebody like Michael Jordan in terms of how much leverage you might have in a negotiation like this. But maybe NASCAR is going to play hardball right back and say Michael doesn't have any leverage either. I don't know. I just think that it's a very risky position that they've put themselves in, and I can respect them standing their ground. But
look,
we'll see. It's going to be very interesting to monitor.
Yeah, NASCAR needs, bottom line, NASCAR needs Michael Jordan. They need Michael Jordan right now. They need big names like that. And at the same time, those teams need the brand recognition that NASCAR provides and the order that they provide, the history they have. So the big, I want to ask the big doomsday question to you, Ben. NASCAR said it would move to revoke charters for teams that didn't sign. If NASCAR moves to revoke these charters, how are these teams going to respond to that?
That's a great question. I mean, the bigger question for me is what happens to those charters. I feel like we've heard some rumors that the France family is interested in running a team, but I mean, I don't know how well that's going with the Penske's right now in IndyCar. I think there have been multiple controversies this year alone about the optics of the guy who owns the series and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway having a very successful 3-car team that's winning a bunch of races and competing for championships. What are the optics of it for NASCAR? Let's put it this way. What are the optics for NASCAR if they revoke Michael freaking Jordan's charter and use that charter to go run a team with the France family? I mean, what would that look like? I don't think that would be a very popular move.
I think you're going to lose the American public if you, as a sanctioning body, go against Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Well, and again, but I don't know that I don't know that I fully agree with what you just said. I don't know that NASCAR. I mean, there's a saying, NASCAR was here before you came in. It's going to be here after. Like, I don't know. I mean, need is a very strong word. I don't know that NASCAR needs Michael Jordan, but I don't think at the same time, I can't fully disagree with you because I don't think it would be in their best interest at all to tell Michael Jordan, okay, thanks, but we can play hardball too, and we're not gonna if you won't agree to the terms of our agreement here, which I guess is their prerogative. But I
I
don't
mean,
know. I would much
not
rather,
just Michael Jordan. I mean, also just all the other star power that they've
sure,
assembled.
yeah,
They need their talent. They need their drivers. They need their owners.
no doubt,
The things that the IPs that they have established as a company.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, and yeah, I mean, again, I think that's why it's gonna be very interesting over the next couple of weeks to see what exactly happens here. I know that obviously Jenkins was quoted in that article. I don't know that I saw. I mean, 2311 was very quick to put out like one of those graphics with an official statement and explaining their perspective on things. And we'll see here. I don't know how well this is going to end for them, but again, I can also understand the perspective of what if you feel like the terms aren't acceptable, then you have to do what you have to do to hold your ground and make that clear. And there may be risk involved, but you can at least respect that. So we'll see.
2311 thought it was a one-sided charter and was going backwards instead of forwards. What that means, we don't really know. But it is very interesting, and it's always worth bringing up.